I'd like to call to order the Board of Education meeting for Monday, April 12th. If everyone would stand to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hello, everyone. Is that me? All right, should we wait or go forward?
No, I think they got it.
Okay.
I think there was something needed turned off, and I
Okay,
think
very good.
taken care of.
Please let the record show that we have all board members present except for Jamie Lewis Gonzalez. She had to play t-ball coach tonight, so she will not be here tonight. I would look for an adoption of the agenda, including the supplemental personnel report with some changes in our green folder.
And I would point out in the green folder that there is an update to the agenda because there was a letter left out in the identification of different items. And then there is also updated personnel report, and then one change to one of the consideration sheets as we clarified some information that will be presented to you in discussion just on a contract wording.
I would make the motion to approve the agenda with the updates and changes.
I'll second.
Motion by Jeff and a second by Tracy. All in favor? 6-0. And Pamela, you had a chance to look over the bills?
Yes, I did, and they were all right, and I make a motion that we accept them and pay them.
Okay.
Second.
Motion by Pamela and a second by Tammy. All in favor? 6-0. And special recognition, before we do the DCH art students, I would like to congratulate Pamela. She's a grandma again tonight, a granddaughter born this morning, or today. And we're hoping for a name of Pamela or Tammy, either one, but we'll see. Congratulations.
Very much.
Okay, now we are ready for special recognition of our Dodge City High School art students and their instructor, Claudia Enciso. I hope I said that right.
Thank you. I'm going to ask that Miss Enciso and her students come up front. And the students can come right up here and stand.
Come on up.
They're a little nervous. Here we go. As you came in this evening, we have all of their art projects that are on display. So if you didn't get a chance to take a look at that, I would encourage you to do that this evening before you leave. But we're incredibly proud of how they, the achievements that they've earned this year. And we wanted to really highlight what was happening with our Dodge City High School art students because they've just had some tremendous honors this year. So we're going to go ahead and ask that you hand out the honors that they've received.
Sure. So this first set we're going to hand out is for the Western Kansas Scholastics
I'm going to let you
Award.
speak to them.
Sure. Okay, so this Scholastics Awards is for the regional, so it takes over Southwest Kansas area. And Ms. Mariana Sanchez received a silver key for this award. We also have an honorable mention for Ms. Derry Ochoa. A silver key to Kelly Arias. And a silver key and an honorable mention to Josephina Cox. And we have two more awards for Thais Villalobos, which she couldn't be here today, but we'll make sure she gets this. Silver key and honorable mention at that same regional. So with the regional, If you receive a gold medal, it will take you to the national exhibition. So it opens up the door for you to go national. We had a student that received 2 gold medals that opened it up to that national level. So Angelica Ibarra received those 2 gold medals, and at the national level, she received, and remind me, another gold medal, national, and the American Vision Scholarship Award. So, congratulations to Angelica. And then the last one we would like to honor today, another national ceramic competition. So this is a big, big competition. Only 668 pieces made it national-wide, and one of our students was selected for this exhibition. So Ms. Alondra Valle received that honor. She made it national. Thank you guys for having us.
Well, thank you. And I want you ladies to stay right there while we get a camera so we can get a picture for this. And I just want to point out that we take time during board meetings to recognize accomplishments. And I say to you and I say to everyone in the crowd, we're very proud of the programs that we offer at USD 443. And art is vitally important to, as you know, to our programs that we offer. And these accomplishments are not only recognized tonight, but they're greatly appreciated because you represent us. So we're very grateful for that. The displays out front are absolutely wonderful. Can't believe the quality of some of the work. We're very proud of you, and we try to show that by your recognition tonight. So thank you again.
Yes.
Yep. Let's get a maskless photograph to show your pretty faces, and we'll do it the right way. So.
Congratulations.
Yeah, very nice, ladies, very nice.
Congratulations.
Watch your step, getting down, watch your step.
Nice job. Thank you for being here tonight. That's
Yes,
great
thank
to
you.
be able to put the names and the faces together. Okay, we are ready now for the Stuco reports. First up, we have Dakota Whitman with Dodge City High School Student Council.
Hello.
Oh,
Sorry about my hair. All right, so these are the latest updates at the high school. For sports, the boys' baseball team now has a record of 5-2, and they next play tomorrow at Liberal. The girls' softball team is now 5-0 and will play next at Great Bend tomorrow.
that's great.
The track team recently traveled last Friday to Liberal, and as a team, they placed first as a team, and they next travel to Great Bend on Friday. The boys' tennis team placed second in their first 2 meets, and next travel to Hayesville campus tomorrow. The girls' soccer team is now 2-4 and travels to Great Bend today. Some other announcements are at DCHS, we recently had a canned food drive, and it was open to every OP, to kids to bring canned food to their OP or any perishable item. And we had a little competition, and Miss Stevens OP was the winner, and their class had 161 items. Also, the Dodge City High School Academic Night this year is on April 28th, and it will only be available to this year's senior class. And also, prom is coming up this Saturday. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
You
Dakota.
guys have a good one.
Next up, we have Eddie Salinas with Comanche Middle School Student Council. Nope, not here? Okay. Is there anything we need to know, Rachel? Okay. Sounds good. Sounds good. All right, we have then Osvaldo Telez from Dodge City Middle School Student Council.
Good afternoon. My name is Osvaldo Telez, and I attend DCMS as the president of STUCO. DCMS is still participating in doing morning announcements where STUCO members read along with the Pledge of Allegiance every morning. The vision statement stresses the importance of understanding learning behaviors associated with academic success in life and beyond middle school. Track season is open and they have been doing an awesome job. Girls and boys soccer season is another of DCMS great achievements. With them giving it all in the field, DCMS is very proud. The coaches and athletes have been doing their part to social distance and follow CASHA and district safety protocols to keep us all safe and healthy to continue our seasons. There are new cheer and drill team members on DCMS to promote school spirit. There are 46 girls on the drill team, and captains will later be announced in summer vacation. State testing began today, and 8th graders had their science test on April 6th and 7th. We're all looking forward to the choir concert on May 11th and our band and orchestra concert on May 10th. Fine Arts Night is also coming up on Monday 19th, and you guys are all invited. SUCO members are going to volunteer to help the zoo out on April 17th. We are all looking forward to wanting to do a campus beautification day along with a uniform drive to help out for 2021 to 2022 students. Thank you for supporting us at DCMS for the school year of 2020 to 2021. SUCO Representative Osvaldo Telez. Thank you.
We're ready now for recognition of visitors. Persons may present ideas or concerns regarding USD 443 schools. No action will be taken by the board at this meeting. Personalities and behavior of employees are not to be presented during this period, but are to be reported to the employee's immediate supervisor. The president shall determine the amount of time to be spent for citizen participation. If you would like to address the board, please approach the podium at this time.
My name's Jeannie Zortman, and some of you know me. I have not been involved with the school for a long time. I used to sit up there where you all used to sit. I'm here because of the notice that I received today by Facebook from some former students, parents, about the Will Rhodes Garden School. I've lived out there a long time, and that building has a lot of history. It was built by the people of Will Rhodes Gardens, and as far as being a alumni, I went there a few years, as did Tracy, a little bit. And my pastor up there for 36 years preached at the church across the road. I will tell you that right now, we are not in favor of the changes that you all will be making. It comes to be a habit of Dodge City to come into Will Rhodes and take whatever you want. You tried it back in 1982, and my mother beat you. And the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So I just want to tell you, we're not in favor of it, and I've talked to some of the parents at Las Brisas, and I think it would have been considerate if you'd have come to Will Rhodes to come and talk to us, residents and parents and students of our school. I know it's a little school. I know it costs a lot of money, because I used to sit up there to run that school. But I also know that Will Rhodes Gardens has always tested very well in assessments. That's because we're a good school, and we always have been. So that's my comment. He knows where to find me. He knows where to find me.
Is there anybody else that would like to address the board? Seeing none, we will move on. We have the consent agenda, which includes the approval of personnel, including the supplemental personnel report, the approval of minutes for the March 8th, 2021 Board of Education meeting, approval of minutes for the March 31st Special Board of Education meeting, approval of the 2021-2022 Southwest Plains Regional Service Center services for USD 443 Public Schools, approval of contract with Language and Literacy Consulting Incorporated for fiscal year 2021-2022, approval of Head Start 2021-2022 COLA grant application for Bright Beginnings, approval of Head Start supplemental grant application CRRSA for Bright Beginnings, approval of 2021 Kids to Parks Day School Contest Grant Award for Sunnyside 4th grade, approval of Bright Beginnings Policy Council minutes for the January 19th and February 25th meetings, and the Head Start Program Instruction ACF-PI-HS-2101. That last item is information only.
I make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
All right, we've got a motion by Jeff and a second by Pamela. All in favor? 6-0. We're ready now for new business. First up, curriculum and instruction. We have the approval of disposal of unusable district-owned textbooks and materials.
Good evening, Board of Education, Dr. Dirksen. In your packet, I'm seeking board approval and action for the disposal of our current math materials that we utilize with the adoption process of the new K-12 materials. We actually, those are starting to be delivered on site currently. So we have worked with Union Rescue Mission out of Wichita in the past. Last year, because of COVID, they were shut down, but they are willing to come get all of our materials. We have scheduled between May 17th and the 21st for them to come pick up. And I think what's important to know is, this board has been very purposeful in making sure that to the extent that we can, per our board policy, that we don't just take those things to the landfill. What the Union Rescue Mission does is they employ unemployed people to come in and process these books, and they try to get them out to other school districts or countries to utilize them, but then also that stuff that's not utilized for additional or to be continued for instructional use, then they recycle. And so all those funds go into what the Union Rescue Mission's charter is. And so it's a great way for us to be able to let these books be used again in another fashion. So what I'm asking for is board approval for the discard of all the existing math materials to occur by around the May 17th to 21st timeframe.
We've got a motion by Tammy and a second by Pamela. All in favor? 6-0.
Thank you.
And I believe Dr. Dirksen is covering for Mr. Turner.
Yes, Mr. Turner's gone tonight, so thank you. I'll fill in, but this, and ask that Hammer and Scott and Tammy, anybody that needs to help direct this in the right way. But basically, what we're trying to do is to continue the transition and keep the current positions that we have with the change in what their role is going to be. And I would direct you to your green folder that the updated consideration sheet is in there. And as I recall, the primary change was just in the wording of the contract to go from what was worded as a 10-month to the 183 days, which is the same amount of days. It's just now spelled out in a contract. So, and the mileage is not paid out of at-risk funds. It's paid out of a different fund. I forgot that part, but yeah, I do remember that. So that's really the only significant change that was in there, and it was just better wording, if you will. The idea of this program you've heard about before, Matt has presented. It involves the two professionals that we currently have, and it involves trying to help kids succeed in school and trying to keep them in the buildings that they're currently attending, and make sure that we're doing everything we can for them and for the team. Because when you have a child that's having difficulties for emotional and behavioral health, it's not easy, and it takes a lot of work. And so this is best effort to go forward, and I think it's been explained before. I don't know, does anybody want to add anything more to it? I think we're on the right track here. I'm kind of excited about what this program can become, so I'm looking forward to that, so.
Group tonight. You calling for an approval? I'll make the motion to approve this.
Okay. All right.
I appreciate how we're really reallocating very good resources
Absolutely.
into a role that I know that the administration is wanting. Wow, these are two quality people. And I think it's a good job of reallocating current assets. Not that your wife's an asset, Dr. Springston. I appreciate it.
Have a motion by Pamela and a second by Tracy. All in favor? 6-0. All right, next up, we have public information.
This evening, I just have a few updates with what's taking place. I wanted to remind you that April 22nd, which is a Thursday, will be the retirement banquet, and we have a really nice evening planned for our retirees. Hors d'oeuvres start at 5:30. We have live music provided by a Dodge City High School student. So we're just planning a very nice evening. They'll have gifts, and we will also have the administrators in their building will be talking and sharing a few words about the service that they've provided for our students and our families. May 3rd through 7th is National Teacher Appreciation Week, specifically on May 4th. That is Teacher Appreciation Day. And Dodge City Public Schools always celebrates by really thanking all of our staff for what they do to serve our students. We have 2 days that are blocked off for us to enjoy the Long Branch Lagoon in the evenings, and that will be late June and in July. So we'll be letting you know those dates, but that's how we will be celebrating this year, is providing those evenings where they can bring their families and have fun at the Lagoon Water Park. So we're looking forward to that. The other thing I wanted to bring up is the 22-23 calendar. We will be presenting an option in Cabinet tomorrow and be discussing that. Once we discuss that, it will go to committee for their review, and if they want to talk about another option, we'll be doing that. And then we will bring that forth to the Board of Education. So we are moving on that 22-23 calendar year, and we'll be bringing more information shortly. Thanks.
Thanks, Carrie. All right, now we are ready for Human Resources. Dr. Nance?
Good evening. Tonight I am going to be giving an update on the employee portion of the district's strategic action plan. I've included that in your packet so you can see the goals and the objectives for the employee portion of the plan. What I want to do tonight is just talk about what have we done to try to meet those goals. So I have 4 areas that I want to address, and the first being employee appreciation. And Carrie just mentioned that back in 2019, we had an employee night at the Lagoon, and we're going to be doing it again this summer. So that's a fun initiative that got a lot of good response from our employees. Carrie also...
That was said to be your going away present. Oh. You're going to participate in the swim at the...
Boy, wouldn't that be a headline? So Carrie also arranged Boot Hill Night for our teachers March 4th, and we had several teachers come out and get to enjoy hors d'oeuvres and just see the new museum before it opened to the public, and it was just a very nice treat for our teachers, and I appreciated her effort in putting that together. And then I wanted to remind the board that you also gave an appreciation 3 days off at Thanksgiving, which I heard so much positive response to that, and I hope that you did too. I just wanted to share with you that that was very much appreciated. Dr. Dirksen and Carrie continue to go out every week for Pineapple Patrol, and I think that's a lot of fun. I always enjoy seeing the pictures and what prizes are given away. It's just that little message that we see you, we're out here, we're with you, we enjoy spending that kind of time with you. We do have plans when we get back to a non-COVID world of incorporating classified recognition into the American Education Week activities that we do every year at the Civic Center. This last year, we didn't have a chance to follow through on all the big ideas that we had, but we have those lined up for the next opportunity, which would be November of 2021. So Carrie and I have some plans already in place that we will hopefully continue to carry through. I also wanted to mention that we have, as a district, addressed longevity and have done that for quite some time for teachers for the length of time that they've taught. But we've expanded that to some of our administrators and also within the last couple of years added that for classified. And I think nothing says we appreciate you more than thank you for staying with us. And so I'm very proud that we've put that together for our employees. Let's see. Oh, and there's another big discussion tonight of employee appreciation, so I don't want to burst that bubble, but I do want you to know that we continue to think of ways to express that appreciation to our employees. This year's been incredibly difficult for everyone, and I think that we've come up with some very positive ways to show employees that we care about them and we're glad that they're with us. So the second area that I wanted to address that ties directly to the goals and objectives is recruitment and retention. In 2019, we had 75 teachers depart the district, which seemed a little high. I'm happy to report that in 2020, we had 56. So that number was down. What will 2021 look like? Well, so far, it's not looking too bad, really. But teachers have until June 4th to give notice, so we still have a little bit of a waiting period before I can put that number out there to update. I will say that classified and administrative departures seem about steady, not a big rise and not a big dip. I also want to tie into that with recruitment and retention marketing strategies. And I'm happy to say that since Carrie Baker came into her role, she has a lot of really innovative ideas on how to market and how to attract that marketing. I mean, I can put flyers out there and I can do a lot of different things, but she really knows how to get the feedback on how successful we were and how many hits we get on our website. And we were really just getting into the role of doing that in the spring of 2019. And then spring of 2020, recruitment looked a lot different. And it still is looking a lot different. All of our recruitment events for teachers are still online, and it looks like for fall, they're headed that way again. But I do expect that to kind of turn around. So we've had to be a little bit different in our strategy for recruitment during this last year than what we were in the past, but I think we've been successful. We are seeing people reach out to us about positions in the district, and that's what that's all about. The third area that I wanted to talk about is training that it mentions in the goals. And again, in 2019, I was very happy with the response that we got from our classified staff, and they told us what kind of training they wanted, and Ray Webb got together and made that happen, and we were able to provide a variety of things from Excel training to Word training to FileMaker, which is a program that we use for a lot of different things in this district, and had a lot of great feedback. In fact, with the Excel training, we were having so many people wanting that Ray kept having to add dates and times. And then, you know, last year was a little different. Training consisted of how to deal with COVID and, you know, those kinds of things, very important, but not at all what we anticipated when we put this together. So Ray and I are talking about what that could look like again next year. On April 21st, I'll meet with the Classified Advisory Council, and they're to bring ideas of what kind of training they would like to see in the coming school year, so that will give us some direction. So we're getting back on track in that area as well. Finally, the fourth area that I wanted to talk about tonight is how are we getting that feedback? How do we know what is working, what is not working, what our employees want, how they perceive working in our district? And that is done through a number of surveys. In 2020, I started the teacher exit survey and had just really kind of low response on that. This year, I'm putting it out a little bit earlier. As I get those resignations, I go ahead and send it, and I'm getting some better response that way. So those are coming in. It's interesting. I will say the comments are never, I didn't like teaching in Dodge City. It was, I have family I need to attend to, or I'm getting, married, or my spouse is moving, or whatever. So far, there's not been any kind of comment that has caused real concern that we need to address from an administrative standpoint. So that's always encouraging. Every year, we send out mentor and mentee surveys that goes to new teachers that are required to have a mentor for 2 years. So we ask them, how was that? Was it helpful? Is there something we need to change in that? And then we also survey the teachers that work as the mentors and ask them, what would you like to see differently? So we did that last year and got a little bit of feedback on, gee, I wish this one tool we fill out every year is a little different, but they didn't tell me what they wanted it to be. So I made a few little tweaks to it, and we'll try again this year and maybe get some different feedback there. Of course, we did a back-to-school survey of parents, teachers, staff in August of 2020 to get some feedback on what they wanted to see, what their thoughts were in coming back in 2020. And right now, we're working on the employee climate survey. I expect that to go out tomorrow. And it goes to all employees. We've done it for the last, this will be our third year. Just asking them, do you feel like you are valued and respected as a member of our team and part of this district? Do you feel like you have the adequate training opportunities? Those kinds of questions, I think, are important to see what our employees really think and feel. It's anonymous, so they don't have to put a name on there, and hopefully they give us very frank and honest information that we can work with. Again, we've done it 2 years prior to this year, and we've looked at it and kind of dissected what it was that might have been a real concern, and so far there hasn't been anything outstanding that we think is an immediate red flag that we're doing anything wrong in the district. So I'll be excited to get this one out there and get the responses back and share that information with you probably, and we can review. Any questions on what's going on with the employee portion of the action plan?
Dr. Nance, you had mentioned the Classified Advisory Council. Could you give some information about that group?
Yes, so that is a group that represents every building, every department by sending a classified member. It could be a secretary, it could be a bus driver, it could be a para to a meeting, and I sit on that committee, and we discuss issues that are pertinent to that group of employees, whether it be vacation, leave, it could be working conditions, it could be any number of things, and that's where I have them come bring me ideas. That's where we generate those thoughts of, let's expand the number of credit hours that we offer tuition reimbursement for from 45 to 60. That's where those conversations happen, where they can let us know what the people that they hear from are thinking.
So how often do you meet?
We meet quarterly. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Other questions? Okay. Thank you.
Nice report.
All right, we've got Mr. Russell coming up.
Good evening. At our last meeting, Mr. Osmus had requested that we come back at this meeting with some kind of presentation and some information about the pool. So both Sean and I kind of worked on this independently and then got together last week and compared notes, and fortunately our numbers all matched, so I felt good about that. It is a very high-level preliminary look at what other schools are currently doing and some projects that are currently under construction at other schools. We didn't really have the time to thoroughly vet out every option. We didn't really look into partnerships at this point, but with the time we had, we wanted to bring the information that we felt comfortable, that was reasonably accurate. So I'm going to let Mr. Steiner kind of start and talk through his information, and I can kind of share some financials here at the end, and feel free to ask us any questions that you might have.
Good evening, Board of Education and Dr. Dirksen. Felt like it was just a couple years ago we were at this same conversation. A little bit has changed as far as I didn't resurvey like I did then, but I did reach out to a couple different groups who I knew have added pools and things like that. We looked at Mays is currently in the process of a project right now. It was like a $23 million project, but they're building an auditorium plus an 8-lane pool and some bigger functions with it. As far as what we'd probably be looking at is a little bit more similar to Andover. Andover has 2 high schools. It is a joint venture between those 2 high schools. They were building an 8-lane pool, and it was about $6.5 million is what they're looking at. The difference between the 2 of them when I talked to Mays was it was about, they figured roughly 11 to 12 million. The difference there is just the different functionalities of the pool. Mays had like a diving well at one end, whereas Andover had the diving well in the actual pool as just like a deep end compared to a shallow end. I will also say that Shawnee Mission School District also just finished a natatorium last spring. They actually hosted the Acacia 6A boys state swim meet there this year, all Acacia swim meets there this year. That was a much more expensive project because the size of it was, it's similar to what is at Topeka at Cap Federal, which is basically, seats about 1,000 people. It's an 8-lane pool, but it's actually 50 meters compared to 25 meters. What we typically see as far as the numbers you've seen typically before is most schools have a 6 to 8-lane pool. Last time I talked about 259. Each one of their high schools has a pool inside of it. Those were done at a discounted rate for the fact that they were doing 9 high schools. So each one of their high schools has it. Goddard actually responded no to my response 2 years ago. They're actually in the process of looking at adding swimming to the new Genesis Genesis Fitness Centers being built in Goddard. So actually both Goddard and Goddard ISR are looking at adding a pool as well. I've mentioned to you before, this is one of those things for a school of our size. All 5 WAC schools have swim teams. Liberal and Dodge are the only 2 that can't host because of the facilities that we have. Our pool's too short and Liberal's the same way. But all 5 of us use local facilities that are not USD or not school district owned. The numbers I presented to you have gone up a little bit. Sorry, I didn't print my sheet out here, so I'm using my phone to do it. 41 responses is what we got last time. I did change that with some of the new ones I knew that had added. Of those, 46% use private facilities. So of those 41, 19 of those did, whereas 54 of them, thank you, sir. Getting phone calls in the middle of board meeting, sorry. Well, I forgot to print it here before I walked in. 22 of them have district-owned facilities.
22 out of 54?
41.
22 out of 41.
41, yep.
District-owned.
Because that's, like I said, I sent that survey out last year to all 5 and 6A schools, figuring that's 68 high schools there. Got responses back from 41 that did have, and it was overall 48 total schools. The Kansas City schools do not. There's some other 5A schools like Spring Hill, Bayshore, Linwood that do not have swim teams. So, questions that you may have, I can try to answer.
Out of the schools you surveyed with pools, how many of them used them throughout their district? Maybe grade 1, 12 through PE and that kind of thing. How many of them were used?
They all have that plan. Whether talking to several of the ADs in 259, that was the plan of them using those. And part of the deal was why they felt the need for it in 259 with Wichita was they're dependent upon the YMCAs. And then you've got Andover was using the Northeast, YMCA, Mays was using the Northwest, plus Valley Center and other schools. They felt the need for their kids to have those facilities. Most of them stated back to me at that point in time that that plan was to use those for a K-12 program, but I don't know that they are. From conversations I was having with them, I can't speak on the record for sure on that part, but like I said, that was the gist I got for most of them, that they were not using it as a K-12 program.
Can you grab your microphone, Ryan? I'm sorry. Yeah.
Hello? So even if it's just anecdotal, the swim team numbers kind of jump out. So the boys team, from a high of 2 years ago of 20 to now a low of 9. Did we graduate several? Did some not return? Do we have any
One thing I will say is
reason why?
Especially this spring, we've noticed you look at the girls' numbers are down as well. With COVID and last spring being canceled, we've seen spring participation numbers in some sports not be as great as what they were.
Oh, okay.
It's one of those things that the need for a little bit of community partnership is. The YMCA has a community swim team. It's one of those things where I know one of the better swimmers on that swim team actually is a homeschool kid, and at one point in time was looking to go into Garden City. Like I said, it was one of those things. I believe he's not in school, but he's just staying at home doing homeschool that way. But as far as that part, yes, some of it influxes a little bit on graduation. Sometimes it is just some kids think swimming is jumping in a pool, splashing around too sometimes. And you get in and start swimming laps, and I decide it might not be for them.
And Pamela, maybe you already asked this, so if she did, forgive me. So, because I think that this is what you asked, so I apologize if I misinterpreted. But so the schools that have their own facilities,
Right, yep.
do they offer? Are they using those for other purposes such as physical education credits, physical therapy? Allowing community swim teams use those facilities? How are they using those?
A lot of the ones I've seen, like I can speak from this part of, as far as 2 years ago, I visited Hazelville campus because that was one of the newest pools at that point in time. Theirs actually is built onto their high school, but it has a corridor, basically it's a foyer that attaches to the building, but they can shut it down so the community can use it, yes. I can speak from the Lawrence side of thing is, Lawrence Free State has a pool on their campus, but it is a detached building that is open to the community for the majority of the day, but then they block it down when their swim team is there to practice or when they want to schedule things into it. As far as using it for PE classes, I can't speak on that side. I mean, it's one of those things that we'd like to think it'd be used for that part, but you also got to think big picture too of you got time, or like how much time are you really going to be a pool in an 84-minute class, because by the time you get changed out to go in, get back out, shower, it's a little tough on that part. I mean, you'd only have probably roughly 50 minutes in pool, which is still a lot of time, but it's still the change out process, which is similar with PE.
First of all, I'd like to thank you for bringing all this information. This is kind of a passion for me because I feel like swimming is a lifelong skill for all students, for all people. I mean, we're going to use the lagoon, and I hope everybody can swim, because you can drown, and you know that.
Yes, you can.
I know I understand that we allow our weight room facilities and those workout facilities in the morning are open to some community people. Is that correct or not correct? In other words, I could go to where the workout in this, where the football.
For the most part,
players-
our weight room, no, is not at the high school. Is not no on that part.
Okay, it was my
'Cause
understanding that it was.
You're being open. It's open basically right now from 6:30 in the morning for
Right.
classes, a 0 hour, and usually it's in use till after school weights is done around 4:35.
Okay, so no community members can go in there at
Not for the most part,
6:30
no, especially this year with our COVID plan.
with COVID, but I mean, I
Typically,
thought,
on the most part, no, it is not.
Okay.
Now, outdoor facilities, we've opened up at times, like the track, Memorial Stadium is open for people to use the track on that side of things. But outside of indoor facilities, usually those are not open, no.
because I'm assuming that, well, I think I heard you say that those communities that had the pools, the schools that had it, the community members utilized it as well. Is that correct?
Like some of them, yes, some of them, no. It just kind of depends. What I was saying, it was more open to their K-12 part of things as far as, like I said, 2 years ago, I did a lot of research on this and seeing programs and things like that you can do for
Red
swimming in
Cross
school.
Life-saving, adult swim.
Well, a lot of it was more learn to swim, things like that, and more elementary level is like you're talking about. It's a lifelong skill of they're trying to do the early development stuff, things like that, getting kids in pools and swimming earlier, and so they are safe. As like I said, I can't speak on the fact of whether people are actually implementing that program either. Most of the ones I read about were nationwide, not anything local here in Kansas.
It just seems like it would be a truly positive addition to this community if we could teach our students how to swim, if we could provide that piece?
The tough part about, I'll say this much, is it takes qualified and certified people to do that.
Sure.
And so
Then
that's
we could teach- Then we could teach Red Cross life-saving.
Well, and that's even one of the things I basically require one of my swim coaches to be certified at the high school. They both actually are.
Oh, yeah.
One of them actually is, that teaches swim lessons in the summertime, so that's a normal thing. So is the water safety instructor licensure plus the lifeguarding as well. But that's one thing with the YMCA, we have to have that. And part of their rechartering is they want us to actually have a lifeguard on duty. So usually we have team managers, whether it be during the boys' season, the girls in there, or during the girls' season, the guys in there, or we have sometimes female managers for the girls' team that are also lifeguards. So lots of times they're in there and they're actually on the stand during swim practice. So there is somebody physically there during that time.
I'm assuming, but I'm quite sure that the lagoon has to have a WSI,
Yeah,
water
yep,
safety
absolutely.
gear on duty at all
That's,
times.
yeah, those all do, yep.
And students could.
I don't know about WSI, but they have to have sure the lifeguarding,
Lifeguard, yeah.
because the WSI is the instruction part of it, yep.
Thank you for all you've done to.
So,
I'm sorry, I'm just amazed that the annual costs are that low. I was, 200,000.
That's a lot of money to a guy like that, so
Well, that's a lot of money from this chair too, let me tell you, but.
I do know, saying this much, sitting on the Parks and Rec board from time to time, our former city Parks and Rec director basically said that's one of the things when you have pools, they're not money makers.
So, Mr.
It's just
President-
because you have operating costs, and you plus you have the upkeep and things like that. And I know that's one of the battles they've fought with the city with the Long Branch Lagoon, is you're always plumbing, pumps, things like that. There's lots of different things. And especially in the indoor pools, the big thing there is ventilation systems.
Do we have any idea of the lifespan of a pool?
I did not get that. The operating costs are probably reasonable estimates. I got those from two different locations, and they both came in at $180,000. That's for, what I don't have is a breakdown on chemicals versus labor. So it was $180,000 plus I added 20 for extra insurance that I got from our insurance carrier. So that's probably reasonable. And it did come from two different sources, and those numbers matched as well. So, I mean, I feel reasonably comfortable that that wouldn't be a big surprise if, you know, if we did go down this road. One thing I would like to point out on the financials, because I had no earthly idea of what it would cost, and so I was surprised at the range, you know, 6.5 to 11. And I just want to point out that a lot of that is based on the size of the building that goes around that. You know, you've got one that's 28,000 square feet and one that's 17. Obviously, that has an impact. So these are real projects that are under construction, so those are reasonable. They're part of bigger projects, but they were able to give me pretty good estimates. What's not in there is there's been a substantial increase in material construction costs, and I couldn't tell you if that's 10% or 30%. So if we went out for a bid today, it would be higher. But these are, you know, these are real projects under construction at the present time or recently finished. So it gives you an idea of the range, and that's impacted by the size of the structure that you put around the pool. So that's where, you know, it was nice to have somebody that had some real stuff going on. So I feel like they're accurate for the time that the construction was started. Any other, like I said, we didn't explore partnerships or anything, you know, so there's other options out there, but we didn't get down into the weeds on any of this at this time.
One other thing to consider is how much construction has spiked. I'm very concerned about that.
Yeah, it's gone up, the lumber's gone crazy, metal's gone crazy. I'm not sure about concrete, but it's a topic of discussion with our contractor in the Memorial Stadium project.
Is there any effort on the partnership part to explore that?
Well, I think it's absolutely worth looking at. We just haven't done that. We wouldn't have been able to, we'd still be, we can get into it, we just didn't have it ready by this meeting.
Did they explore partnership with the city? Is that what you would?
That would be the only, that's the only one that would make sense to me,
That's what makes sense to me as well.
is a partnership with the city. Although I'm exploring the idea, I heard through a grapevine that the bowling alley is for sale. I thought that'd be a great purchase, and we make it half bowling alley, half swimming pool, and serve all of our
Underwater
programs.
bowling, we could do that.
Don't get too creative, but we need both facilities, right, to keep our programs alive. We really need those facilities, and
That being
that's not a
said,
laughing matter.
I hope that somebody does buy it, because like I said, that does affect our bowling team, so it's one of those things that is
huge way.
concerned that,
And I realize it looks like, I mean, it's a lot of money, no matter how you look at it or slice it or anything, but we have a wonderful stadium. Memorial Stadium is absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, so a few things. I'm going to piggyback off what Pamela said, but I'll first start with Fred. That was actually, I had 3 more things, and that was one of them was about exploring the partnerships and what we might need to do to get that kicked off the ground. You don't have to answer that now, but thinking of that, what do we need to do to get that moving, possibly moving forward? 2, we're not able to host events or swim meets or anything due to the lack of facilities. Now, Memorial Stadium updates and things we've done or are going to continue to do moving forward, that was long overdue. But one of the main reasons or driving forces behind putting money into Memorial Stadium was to be able to host things like the Shrine Bowl and different events and activities such as that. In Dodge City, we've become kind of a destination for state tournaments and all kinds of different things, whether it be basketball, football, or whatever. So not being able, or I'm not for sure whether I should, in the affirmative or the negative, what's the negative not being able to, the downside of not having our own facilities, obviously not being able to host events. And if we did have our own facility, whether it was a shared partnership or we went it on our own, what's the benefit? Because some of the other benefits of the things we've done were obviously benefits to the school district as well as the good of the community. That's why we've invested money in some of those things, such as Memorial Stadium. What would be the benefits of us doing
I will say the
this?
benefit of us having a pool to actually host an event is the fact that our kids get to actually have a home meet. That's one of the things for our kids that are on the road. When I say on the road, that's 50 miles at least. Boys and girls both go to Garden twice, but that's the closest. That's one of those things. Hammer asked me that question is, ideal, if you had a pool, how many times would you host? And it'd probably be 4 times a year. And the way we do it with the Western Athletic Conference too is, if you have a facility that you can host outside of track, we rotate those events to each one of those locations. So right now, Garden host, Great Bend host, and Hayes host for boys and girls swimming. But it'd be offered the opportunity to host a conference championship as well as home meets. This year, especially with COVID, parents have not been able to attend swim meets because that's the one place that doesn't have adequate seating, and it's indoors, and that's the one that struggles there. As I know, some of the other schools have allowed parents in to be timers, so they've been able to have the opportunity to watch their kids this year.
Okay. Yeah, the coach. So hopefully at some point we'll be able to return to that.
That's the plan, right?
But yeah, just right there. I mean, so that's obviously an added and stated benefit for our students and as well as to the community, bringing all of those individuals into the community during those swim meets or conference meets or whatever.
One of the negatives I would say probably is just the fact that, I mean, Hammer and I had this discussion of what we actually use a pool for as far as right now is you're looking at from 3:30 to roughly 5:30 or 5 right now with the YMCA, but probably swim practice would go to 5:30 if we had our own facility. So you're looking at that from November, basically the middle of November till the end of May. So what'd you say it was? 6% of time usage as far as a facility. That's the one negative out there on that part of it. So I think that's the importance of having
Are you
a
talking about the swimming pool usage or the football field usage, Memorial Stadium?
swimming pool.
How much do you use Memorial Stadium?
Ton.
I didn't
between,
calculate that.
no, it's between community college and us using it in
But
middle
can
schools.
do we let our junior highs,
They participate down there, yeah.
elementaries can use?
Well, right now they're using it for track practice. I mean, that's one of those things that's,
I just want to make
yeah.
sure that.
No,
we know,
absolutely. Nope,
you know,
absolutely.
it's all across the board, K-12.
And the one thing I will say is, big picture wise, with that cost, that includes usually most places, that's timing systems, that's blocks, that's it's all encompassing. It's not just, hey, we got this, and then we have to add costs on the end of that part of it. Usually that $6.5 million is all encompassing.
And it can be used for swimming lessons for elementary kids during the school year as well.
It could be, yeah. Like I said, once again, it takes that certified person to do there and be there on that part of it.
And I think it is worth noting, maybe not, you can talk about me later when you leave if you don't think so. But, like the bowling team, right? Because it is kind of in the community now that they're thinking about selling that facility. And that wouldn't be reason alone just to go ahead and get a swimming pool. I know there'd have to be other factors, especially considering the expense. But for lack of a better way to say it, kind of being at the mercy of others like we are now with our bowling team. I mean, if we don't have a bowling facility, which is a real possibility as soon as maybe a month or so, well, what happens to our bowling team? So I think that's something to take into consideration as well, because that same scenario relates to our swim team. So
perhaps Ryan and Pamela would like to form some type of committee to look at community partnership to see if this is something viable.
yeah, I'm willing to help because I've been one of the more vocal people, so I can't say no. No, I believe in it, so yeah. And yeah, it'd be great to get some community input. With help from the administration, though. I mean, yeah, you guys would have to be a part of that.
I have had some very, very, very informal conversations with the YMCA on that side of things, not so much with the city, but just asking them what their thoughts and feelings were there too. They're in a weird place now with their recharting as well, but they also understand that their facility is the state that it's in and where it's at too on that part of things as well.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, well, at a later date or here right in the near future, Hammer, maybe I can call you and we can start formulating committee, bring that back to or whatever we need to do, but I'll give you a shout. That works with everybody? Is anybody opposed?
We did not mean to leave that out. With the time constraints, that's the reason that wasn't brought up. I think it's a great idea and it certainly ought to be explored. So we're happy to do that. We just didn't want to show up here today and say, well, we don't have anything to talk about. So that's where we were in the process, so.
Thank you both. It was good information. Thank you.
Okay, moving right along. The next item I have for you, and it really hasn't been discussed much with you folks. I think it was maybe mentioned briefly, so I want to kind of go through some details, and again, by all means, ask any questions that you might have. To the best of my knowledge, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're the only 6A school in the state that has gone face-to-face the entire year. I know the year's not over, but we are definitely moving in that direction to complete that. It was definitely a group effort on everyone's part. It was pretty much a day-by-day kind of, pivot and make things happen. And you guys know that as much as anybody, everything that was involved. I won't even pretend to stand here and tell you that I have a clue on everything that it took to make it happen. But as it turns out, we do have funds available, and from a recognition standpoint, I thought it would be a good idea, since we can do it, to provide a stipend to all the individuals that help make that face-to-face meeting happen. So this was just a proposal. Some of these criteria were just developed to try to figure out how to be inclusive, but define, how to make that happen. So we do have funds available in an account called Gifts and Grants. So I want to make it clear that it doesn't come from any taxpayer money. It doesn't come from ESSER funds. It comes out of Gifts and Grants. It is a substantial amount, as you'll see here in a minute, but the proposal before you is to award a stipend to all eligible employees in the gross amount of $575. Should net out somewhere close to $500. That's how that we came up with that amount. There is some criteria just to define, it's not made to be exclusive, but there has to be a way to get some of these people a check. So the eligibility requirements are there, and there's just 4 of them. Do want to point out that we wanted to include substitute teachers. They may not be full-time employees, but we'd have never made it without them. Do want to include 613 employees, because we wouldn't have made it without them. So, you know, there's roughly 1,391 people in there, and this is an estimate because I can't really give you a hard estimate until we get approval and we scrub and see who meets this criteria. So it is an estimate, but it may be a little on the heavy side. But following that criteria, to the best that I can come up with, would be a total, including fringes, of about $960,000. Again, it doesn't come out of the general fund, it doesn't come out of LOB, doesn't come out of any ESSER money. It comes out of our gifts and grants account. I went through that kind of fast, and I didn't mean to, but I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have on where these numbers or where the criteria came from.
One thing I would add that you've covered is we will list it as a line on the paycheck that will help things in the payroll department expedite without a huge hassle. And we did discover that, so you might explain that a little bit.
Yeah, we wanted to be able to thank the employees face to face, so we wanted to hand them something. And so initially it was, how about a real check? But a lot of employees actually prefer direct deposit. They choose that for a reason. So, and then we realized, well, if we have a separate payroll run, and by the way, this isn't to make it easier on the accounting people, I promise you. It does do that, but it does make it easier on the employee as well as not having to juggle different pay periods and different deposits. So it shows up as a higher amount on the regular pay period, but the intention is to still hand them that and thank them for their service for the entire year. So the intention is to recognize the efforts and the accomplishment of going face to face all year long.
And part of our vision in that payroll check, the payroll summary will be basically your chart here on the criteria, and then Carrie is going to work with Lisa on behalf of the board and myself, and we're going to put a thank you in there with that. That will come from both of us and represent the board. And then we will determine the date. We're going to hand it out as April 25th?
May 25th.
May 25th? May 25th? Yeah, April's this month. And we'll have time to talk ahead of time about if people want to go to different locations when they're going to hand it out, they can get with the principals and all that, so.
Since it's on their pay stub, what about taxes?
Well, no, they'll be taxed. I can't get around that.
Yep.
But that was the purpose of grossing it up to 575, so
Yeah.
that it would net out somewhere close to 500.
Yeah.
I just want to thank you for using that gifts and grant money. It's been sitting there for the
That's the
10
whole
years
idea.
I've been on the board.
Yeah.
And thank you for using it, for coming to us with such a wonderful way to use it. It was guarded pretty heavily in times past, so.
I want to say two things. I think it's important that everybody understands that the same amount is going to every employee because it was an effort that was a team effort by every employee, and we're trying to recognize that. And the other thing is, I'm aware of some districts that are doing this, and they're leaving their special ed out. And I couldn't do that. I'd rather not do it at all if we couldn't do that, because how do you go into a room and say, you get it, I'm sorry, you don't get it? And that's not fair to, and in our district, they're all our kids and they're all our employees, and I've preached that since the day I've been here, and so I want to make sure everybody recognizes that.
Pretty good. I'm excited about this. Yes, we do.
I do believe we're looking for approval.
I would love to make that motion. This is a great use of that money.
All right, we've got a motion by Pamela and a second by Ryan. All in favor? 6-0.
Thank you. So the next couple of items were generated out of the Capital Outlay Committee. We're just firming up prices, and so now we're bringing these before you and asking for your approval. First on the list is some classroom furniture that'll go towards Central Elementary and the Dodge City Middle School. I don't have a fully vetted process on how we do this across the district, so in this case, I just worked individually with the principals, and they did a great job of highlighting their needs versus their wants, and there's actually more to come at a later time from the middle school. This is being requested so we can get this part of their portion out of their discretionary funds within this fiscal year. So you'll see some more, another request for them and probably others later. It won't be my intention in the future to bring up classroom furniture school by school. We'll do it as a district. But because we wanted this to start the school year next year, I wanted to, and we had real numbers, I wanted to go ahead and get your approval on these two right now. And when we get a firmly vetted process together, we'll just bring these to you once a year from going forward.
I'll make a motion, we accept the bids for the furniture for Dodge City Middle School and Central Elementary.
A second. We've got a motion by Jeff and a second by Tammy. All in favor? 6-0.
Okay, next on the list are some HVAC rooftop units for the high school. In a previous board meeting, we approved the control portion. These are the actual rooftop units. They're original to the school itself. We do have firm quotes on them, and that comes to $348,303 to replace those units. And again, this came out of the Capital Outlay Committee.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion by Tracy and a second by Tammy. All in favor? 6-0.
Last on here, one of the other items that came out of the committee was to replace the boiler, or one of the boilers, the original boiler for the high school. And it was recommended that we do a study there's been enough change in technology in the last 21 years that we can probably gain some efficiency. I'm just to confess to you, I don't necessarily like paying somebody $10,000 so I can feel good about a decision, so I kind of weigh using consultants with a grain of salt. We were able to save some real money at the Dodge City Middle School by going through this type of process. We were able to use less tonnage and more efficient units, so we actually saved some money. And with the change in technology, as tight as I am, I guess I'm okay with spending $21,000. So when we spend $300,000, we know we're spending it wisely. So this portion of this is to do the study, to get the recommendations, to get the specifications written correctly so that we can turn around and bid it and get as efficient unit as we possibly can. So this is the first step in getting that boiler in place.
My first thought is this: I thought you were buying a boiler for $21,500, and I was going to jump out of the room.
I wish.
You're right. Spending money on consultants, it stinks, but it's necessary from time to time.
Sometimes it sure is. Yes, absolutely. They have a
Make
place.
motion to accept the bid is for the consultant.
I'll second that.
All right, we've got a motion by Jeff and a second by Pamela. All in favor? 6-0.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Hammer. Dr. Dixon?
Thank you. In a most unusual way, I would like to start out by apologizing for putting you in this situation. But I truly believe that I would not be doing my job if, as your district leader, I don't look at opportunities when they rear their heads. I want it to be known I'll take full responsibility for this idea that is being shared tonight. We are not closing a school. We are not taking action tonight. We are looking at where we're at related to facilities, enrollment, and district needs. And the word that I've been using is there is a possibility that we could repurpose how we're using this current facility. There's a saying in administration, and it's said many ways, but the one I chose tonight is what is good for the community is not always best for some. It has to be realized, and that may be the case here. Let's start back and let's look at enrollment before we shut down for the 9 weeks in 2020. We were approximately, according to the chart that is kept every day and I use frequently and appreciate very much, we were at 7,352, that's in the whole town. As of Friday, we were at 7,285. So the students we lost at the beginning of the year, we haven't fully made up. We're still 67 behind, but you can take 12 of those increased at Sacred Heart, so we're actually 79 behind in the district from where we were at the start of the fourth quarter last year, so we're behind. Currently, as of today, from what I saw, the enrollment at Wilward's Garden is 113 students, of which 57 of those 113 reside in the areas that were mentioned earlier tonight. 38 reside in Wilward's Garden, and 19 in Las Brisas that go to Wilward's Garden. 56 of the students that go there are from Dodge City. 38 are transported by our bus, and 18 parents bring them out there. The possibility exists that I was looking at because of, and it's no one's fault but mine. That's why I'm taking the responsibility here, and I don't want anything said about how everything happens by anyone else. I want it to be known the superintendent is looking at this. We have to make a decision, both with a negotiated agreement and because of the situation. If the board doesn't want to do this, that's fine. I'll take your direction and I'll move forward and we'll do that. But then we have some positions that we have to fill. But I'm not ready to start filling that yet until we give consideration to all the possibilities that do exist. If we were to go with moving all of the students at Willroads to Sunnyside for next year, that used to be a 3-section school, that would make it a complete 3-section school. At that point, if we are lucky enough to get manufacturing or industry or plants to come into town and increase our enrollment, we still have Miller with a whole section to add. We still have Sewell with a whole section to add. We still have Central with mostly a full section to add, I think 1 and 2. So 1.5. And then we have Lynn, which because of remote live learning, the 3rd section is at this point small, so it's partial section. So that's 4 schools that still have more than, in some cases, more than 1 section to add. So there is room within the community for expansion to occur. Okay? I do intend to visit with the staff about this, and I'll be more than happy to visit with the community, but I felt it was unfair to go talk to people before I talk to the board and find out if I should do this. So I believe I'm in the right steps of how this should happen. There's no perfect way for this to happen, but let's be clear, and Clayton can back me up on this, because we're not closing a school, there is no requirement to hold a public hearing. Because we're not closing a school, we would be repurposing that school. I've checked with KSDE, I've checked with KASB, I've looked at the negotiated agreement, which we have until May 15th to notify transfers. I've talked to our legal counsel, trying to take all the steps that need to take place. The neat thing about this and doing it in this time is that we will assure all teachers and all classified staff that they have like positions available. The situation at Sunnyside would be that there's opening for K through 5 to move that whole section. along with other, the specialized teachers. The nurse might have to go to Miller, and another person might go somewhere else, and they may not choose that route, and we would give them opportunity for openings to request a transfer. The same would be true for students. If they chose that Sunnyside wasn't their school of choice, they'd be able to get on the list at other schools and enroll through that route. We wouldn't remove anyone from a school that they're currently at to fill that, but we would be able to give them that assurance. I want you to know I've talked to Trina about the possibility of TEC moving out there, and after I got her to quit performing cartwheels because of the extra space, she indicated to me that she thought that was a positive idea. And I truly believe there are opportunities within the district in regular ed programs that we'd have the availability at that time. And then from that, Bright Beginnings would have some opportunities because they would have some more space. And as we're trying to change Rialto away, that could create other areas. So, I mean, there are a lot of upsides to this possibility. And it just makes sense that we do discuss it. What I want to ask, if anybody wants to fill anything, go ahead, Tammy, I see you. Okay, so what I want to say is that we will have a noon meeting on the 26th, and we will have to have direction at that time because of the needs of the timing of everything that would need to happen. And I see a lot of upside to this, and I know it's not going to go over well with some people. I know that. And unfortunately, it goes back to trying to look at what is the best benefit for the entire district. On her behalf, I will share that being a half-time principal, and there's been half-time principals before Erica was out there, that's almost unfair to that person because they are not a half-time principal. They're a full-time principal. And yet, the way that we've designed the scale and everything else, that's the way it is treated. And that makes it less desirable. And so we continue to go through that rotation. And then we have other positions. And as I said, there is no one position that can be blamed except for this position right here. And I bring that to you, and I'm willing to do it. I mean, you can see on paper, it makes sense. And I beg you to tell me that it doesn't make sense and we shouldn't do it. I mean, otherwise, I would like to plan to have information that would help us be successful in repurposing Wheelroad's Garden for next year. The one thing I didn't add that I do have written down here, it would be a year-to-year agreement with 613 to use that facility so that we could monitor it at the end of each year and we could take it back if that's what we so desired. Does anybody have anything to add? Tammy?
Collaborative work with PLCs and teachers being able to work in teams and look at data and help each other support on instructional pieces and that kind of stuff. And they have done a good job of kindergarten and first grade meeting together, but their stuff is still different. Some of the needs are different. So just even on an instructional standpoint, being able to have a team of more than one to be able to support instruction and peace, I think is another positive, and it's not one I brought up earlier.
That's a good point. I appreciate that.
What's the average class size out there?
17, I would guess, is about the average class size. What's the smallest class, Derica? Is 17's the smallest? Okay, I'm sorry. I thought that was about the average.
How many of those students, that's their first choice school? So I'm just going to assume some parents choose to have their kid go to a smaller school with that many kids busing from town?
That, I don't know. Do you? I did not look at that.
And then what's the busing impact? Because now we're looking at busing 50 kids plus into town, so
Well,
was-
that would be hard to answer too, because I don't know exactly where they would go. But there are 57 in that area, of which I don't know how many of them are bused already because of Las Brisas. I imagine those 19 are bused. Is that right? Yep.
Do we bus from Las Brisas to Will Roads?
Yes, we do already.
So part of that 38 kid, or is in that busing number, or? that-
Yes, no, the 38 are considered in the Will Roads Garden area. 19 are from Las Brisas, and they're the ones that are bused in.
And then, do we know how many of the ones that are bused in are within the walking distance for Sunnyside? Like, is it all South Dodge kids that are getting bused in, or we don't know?
No, I didn't look that up. I just focused on the Will Roads Garden.
And then, one thing that, just money-wise, I struggle with maintaining a physical plant for 20 kids. It's just the physical plant expense out there to move 20 kids doesn't seem to make much sense financially. Because by the time you add heating, air conditioning, the janitor, all the things, that doesn't seem the best use of our funds.
Sorry, this is kind of impromptu, and I think you're right, that has to be looked at, because that would be the downside. And what does that agreement look like between us and 613? Don't know, because it hasn't been struck yet. So that is absolutely one thing that needs to be taken in consideration. On the plus side, you do a much better job of sharing and allocating your fixed costs from the admin side of things. So you have the fixed costs from the utilities, and you're exactly right on that, and the R&M, and so what does that look like? And that's a fair question that we don't have an honest answer, just because this did happen so fast, we didn't have a chance to vet out and look at those numbers. I can tell you that there's definitely some savings on your fixed costs from the admin side, and how you allocate that and how you pay for those resources. So I mean, this is education, and that's the most important thing, and every one of those 113 kids deserves a good education, and they shouldn't suffer any lack at all on that. You could argue that maybe the other 20 or 25 or 30 might get a better education from being in a better facility. So I'm a business guy, and I don't mean to make it business, but we are in the business of education. So on the number side, there are some pluses. In the exact how much that offset is the right question to ask, and I haven't had the time to look into that and see how that changes. But there will be some plus to that as well, and hopefully by the time we have the next meeting, I can answer those questions for you.
I guess one of the things that I like about having the year-to-year lease is that if we do it and it's not working for 613, it's not working for 443, then we can.
Or if we grow, we can use it. We have underutilized capacity within the district right now, which is good. We spent $85 million to get that capacity, so it's good that we have it. It's just, how do we use that the most efficiently and maintain a high level of education for each student?
Well put.
We're moving them out of Head Start building, is that correct?
I'm sorry?
We're moving, those students are coming from which building?
Those students would be coming from the therapeutic education, the TEC.
Which is housed in the.
And which is housed in Bright.
Housed in the Bright Beginnings area, yeah.
So that would provide much-needed space for Bright Beginnings, is that correct?
I would lean towards AC to tell me, but yeah, that would increase some space availability. Is that a true statement, Ms. AC? What about the early childhood at risk that we're trying to increase the numbers there too? Would that? Yep.
So it would be,
Public would like to hear.
Mr. Barker, would you mind coming up to the mic for us?
He was actually trying to say, that's it.
So we've worked closely with Tammy, Fred, and even Hammer before COVID struck, looking at additional space for not just our daycare program, but also our classrooms. With the advent of COVID, we lost a lot of numbers, but we expect that those students are still out there and will be coming back and joining us, and we'll be recruiting pretty hard for that. So, of course, that would be usable space for us, but we weren't looking most recently in that direction, but we would certainly be able to work with Tammy and with the district to figure out how that would benefit us. And we are in desperate need of space, and the district has known that for 2 years now.
and the average, and your students are the age, preschool age.
Well, right now, we have had 3 to 5 students in that building, but right now we have 0 to 3, so that's our daycare area.
So that building then would essentially be all young people.
But, yeah, if what you're describing would happen,
Yep.
we could use all that space.
Which is different than what it has been.
Yes. Safer too.
Say, yeah. That's a busy place right there. Whew.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
Any other questions, comments?
I know from a 613 perspective that the space, the availability, the gym, even the outdoors thing has been well received. I'm kind of in a weird position because that was my parish for 36 years. I sit on this board and the 613 board, and so from a straight district standpoint, it seems like win-win-win. But those people out there, I mean, I got a couple of calls from kids who grew up there and that school, moved out there so their kids could go to that school. And I feel deeply for them. I said, we bought a house in this place so our kids could walk to school. And so there's a lot of emotion, a ton of it. And then you have to go back to when I came in 77, Dodge City, it wasn't, but a couple of years before that, they had inculcated it into 443. And so that's some of what you heard tonight was from back in 74, 73, because that used to be a school district. It was, I mean, Will Rose Gardens was a district, and it was swallowed up by Dodge, so you kind of heard that. So it does make a lot of sense. It is a good use of space.
So, yeah, I was assuming you wanted to hear from everyone considering this. So the one real question I had, Tracy actually asked, and it was already addressed, so I'll take it into consideration. No need to repeat what was already mentioned, but it related to relocating 113 students and bringing in 20. Wherever Hammer went, I was trying to look at him. So that was already addressed. I will consider that. So there was that aspect, but Jeff kind of already alluded to it. I mean, there's also an emotional side, if you will, to this. For full disclosure, that's where I went to grade school. Right? So I'm a product of Will Roads, whether good or bad. And so there's an emotional attachment there that also ties into, and I appreciate what Fred said as it relates to a repurposing. But in my mind, for full disclosure, even though there'll be life and activity there, we're closing a school. That's how I see it. Maybe I'll be convinced over the next 2 weeks. And as a board member, I just wasn't prepared, especially in this short amount of time, to decide on whether or not we should be closing a school in USD 443. So there's that aspect. So my thoughts are a little bit all over the place right now, maybe. Hopefully that all made sense, but those are some of my thoughts. And right now I would probably lean against. So just so everyone knows, as we prepare to move forward on this. But as Jeff said, I do see the value. That's not lost on me either. I think there's just other factors involved as well. So that's my thought.
Okay, we talk about 20 students. Are we limited by space right now?
We're limited by space.
But I mean, would we have 50 students in there if we had that space? I mean, I don't know.
I don't know about 50, but Trina and I actually talked about this, and I begged her to stay for the board meeting tonight, and so I appreciate that she gave us her time because she doesn't have to be here and is. So.
Hey, I love being here. When Fred talked to me about this option, actually as 613, as Mr. Hires knows, we have had this discussion for many months now. When it was brought forward that we would take over TEC, we have been actively looking for a space. So when he came to me, I was so excited. Let me tell you what about the current TEC space. We have the most emotional needs students in Dodge City, as well as a few from the districts I serve. Those students are held in 2 different buildings. In order to have access to a gym, they're over at Bright Beginnings Preschool Gym. And we're talking, we serve kids K through 12. And so you've got, in the current West building, we have upper elementary students with little preschool kids. That's not conducive. They don't have access to PE. There's no outside space, really, to say. And I say that, yes, we have access to a basketball court, we have access to the soccer field, but if you're thinking about emotionally disturbed child, the neediest of the needy of the needy, and you're gonna ask them to go out to that soccer field, I can tell you they're gonna elope and run. We've also had some safety concerns between the 2 buildings in terms of students walking back and forth because our seclusion and our timeout kind of room is over on the west side, so students from the east have to come to the west. We'll think about taking an emotionally disturbed child who's upset, trying to transport them outside, across outside when it's cold. Until COVID, when it was cold, they had to go outside and around to get their lunch. So I'm just thinking, we have the neediest of the neediest, and we're asking them to do things that I'm not sure as adults we would like to do. And so when this opportunity came open, I was very excited because A, it has space. B, we're not sure what's going to happen exactly with that Rialto Way division. Our goal is to put those students back in gen ed, but I have a feeling there will be some who need a more intense kind of setting, as well as the more we do with trauma and understand our children of trauma, I think we're going to need some more space that we can have some sensory rooms. Currently, we don't have that option over where we're currently located. And so thinking about brain-based and what's best for those students, it's an opportunity to expand and become the best of Southwest Kansas that we can become.
I think, thank you for your comments. I think that Trina's information that she's provided goes back to what Dr. Dirksen said at the beginning, is that we have to look out for what's best for the whole and what's the smartest move that's going to help the most students. And that's why I'm in favor, because she's right. I shudder at the thought of taking a child who's in distress and having to take them outside to a different building. And especially on that street, it's very busy. I think it's dangerous. And it's not what's best for those students. And I feel like this is, yes, it is fast. I agree with you, Ryan, that there's a big decision that has to be made quickly, but things have just lined up quickly, and we didn't see this coming, but I think it's a smart move that we really need to consider carefully.
One of the things I heard, I want to make sure I heard this correctly, but we have a K through 5 opening. Sunnyside can take one more section in K through 5, is that correct?
Yes, Sunnyside is currently a 2-section school, and it was built to be a 3-section school.
So it's got rooms empty, waiting,
Yes.
and so we're just taking students from one attendance facility and putting them in another.
Space that we have available.
And I don't know how far Sunnyside School is from Will Roads. I don't know. How far is that?
John?
John?
Yes, you may.
I can accurately answer the question about the distance between the two buildings.
Approximate.
5.6 miles.
5.6 miles,
Hey, that's
okay, thank you.
Oh, I have no idea.
It's probably
I was
pretty
thinking
close.
6 miles. I was thinking 6 miles.
I think I've driven it before. Somehow that sticks in my head, but I'm just a guess, honestly.
What I can comment on is the space that's available in Sunnyside. Currently, right now, we have 8 classrooms that are empty or being used for other purposes other than classrooms. So to move the 6 classrooms K through 5 from Will Roads over to Sunnyside, we have more than enough space. The facilities are adequate to handle the capacity of 116 more students easily.
I know you've put a lot of thought and worked a lot of numbers and looked at what's best for our community. For that, I appreciate that. I see these numbers in Sunnyside empty, and just the idea of moving Rialto away from Bright Beginnings, to me, having a space for them that's more conducive for them, they'll be better off. This all fell into place, I think, and it just happens to be the way the numbers fell out. I think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, we're a school district that, when I left here, you had attendance centers. I taught at attendance center at Northwest, and now you pick where you want to go. So I just think this is a great fit for those buildings.
Pretty close.
I must have went around the block.
Tammy, did you?
Thank you, Tammy.
Yeah, so I was just gonna say, I don't know if it was it been about 4 years ago that Youthville closed down? I think. Youthville closed down, like 4 years ago?
Yes.
So we've known this is something that we needed to address. We've known that we've needed to look for some place to house this. And so we kind of packed them to what we had available. I mean, this is just something that really needs to be addressed and looked at. So I just want the community to think about that, in this. It's not like we've been trying to deal with this in other ways, but it's getting to a place that it's not really meeting the TEC kids' needs. Right. And so even though it's only 20, that's 20 important kids and meeting those needs. So we need to address it one way or another. So if it's not Will Roads, it needs to be, then what's the other miracle we can come up with? Because it does need to be done, and quicker than not. I would be in favor of considering this, but I would like some more information about the contract, about 613's responsibility, finance, different things, more information.
Anybody else want to?
Yeah, we're already moving the Rialto Way kids back into the classroom, so we're freeing up space. I really like what we're already doing at Sunnyside, where we took Bright Beginning full-time classrooms and put them in the elementary schools where we have several buildings with empty classrooms. So I don't find a lot of personal validity of we're making room for Bright Beginnings as a driver. It's convenient, but the pace I'm like Ryan, it's like we're gonna repurpose the building, but we're closing a school. For all intents purposes, it's no longer Rose Gardens Elementary School. It's a building with 20 students in it. And that's a lot of emotion. That's, where I went to and my siblings went to school, and I lived out there for such a long time, but I think the speed in which we need to make this happen to affect 5 employee hires or movement doesn't make sense because it's such a big decision to make. We've freed space up by moving Rialto kids. We don't know, as COVID starts to change, if any of those 100 kids are going to come back in next year and how that changes things. We do know there's some very positive chances of large businesses coming to town, which would impact potentially in the near future our student population. So the speed in which this happens, I don't know that the urgency negates a very methodical decision on, like, hey, is this the best decision for all involved, including all the students out there, staff, parents' first choice. But there's a chance to gather that information in the next 2 weeks. I'm very cautious of the speed in which we're trying to make such a big decision.
Okay. I appreciate everyone's consideration, and again, I just want to reiterate that I believe it is a duty of mine to make sure that when opportunities like this come up, that we do have to have these tough discussions, because it is something that has to be looked at. It's been talked about for as long as I've been here, and I want us to take a serious look at it. So I'll bring that information back to you with help from all that have shared today, and we'll have that difficult conversation one more time with more information.
Now, will you go out there now?
I am going out there tomorrow. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's the right thing to do, and I fully intend to do the right thing, but I didn't think it was appropriate to talk about it and get everybody calling you and stirring it all up before I had a chance to visit with the board. And part of the responsibility of conducting the board meeting is to be transparent and open, and so here we are. So, I mean, we're in a good spot, and there's no ulterior motive. There's nothing going on behind closed doors. It's just a matter of putting it all together. There were a lot of dots that lined up. So let's take a look at it.
Thank you. You have one more item?
I do. And luckily I have some help with this one, but I had help with the last one. I don't want to make that sound bad, but come on up, Sean. I do want to be clear on this too. There's a lot of movement going on, but I have hope that we make it through the end of the year with our mask policy, and then we make it an option. Because I want people to still wear masks if that's how they're most comfortable. I do not want to require that next school year. And unless something changes with the pandemic or with what we're being told by the state or the CDC, I think we're headed in that direction in a very positive way. So I want to make sure of that. And then Sean and I had discussed some things, and we want to talk about where we're at with navigating change, I think.
Yes, I think so too. I wasn't sure we were going to talk about this tonight, but the navigating change, I guess basically we're not making any changes to it right now, other than in the future. I guess we just wanted you to know that in the future we hope to change the mask policy, depending on what we're told from smarter people than me. And then I know that there's been a lot of talk about opening up some facilities, some of our facilities to outside agencies, the gyms and things like that. We haven't made any decisions on that, but it's something I think we need to talk about and then bring to you and decide if you want to do that. And that would be, you know, we're getting to the point where we're going to start seeing people asked to do MAYB basketball tournaments and things like that. We're getting to that point where that stuff's going to happen, and right now we're just still outside facilities are open, but not the inside facilities.
And to be clear, we are allowing practice for some of those teams, is that?
There are some teams that have Dodge City kids on them, and supervision is done by Dodge City people when they practice, and they're not practicing during school when the rest of our kids are there, and they are following all of our policies when they are in the gyms or whatever.
And we did that based on how we kind of handled last summer too, but we just felt like it was important because they are our kids that we allow that, so. What do our numbers look like right now? So.
We have 3 positive cases. They're all 3 students at Dodge City High School. We don't have any staff that are on the list right now.
What do the quarantine numbers look like? Are they super low?
Quarantine staff, I believe there's 1 right now, and kids, there's probably a dozen or more because their parents are positive or whatever, siblings. Our numbers are way down.
Have you heard or seen any increase in immunization of staff? Have not?
Just so you're aware, we have gone all the way through. All of our staff has had the opportunity to be vaccinated. I would say it was less than half chose to do that. The other day, I think it was early last week, I was contacted by the health department, and they said that they asked that we get a message out that it was opening up to 16 and 17-year-olds. But the vaccinations for the 16 and 17-year-olds would be 1 shot of the Pfizer, I believe it is, which they've said that's a lot better than nothing, but they are not expecting a second round of Pfizer to be able to give them a second shot. We did not feel like it was our place to promote it, I guess would be the word, with those students, but we wanted to let them know it was available to them. So we didn't want teachers talking to them or administrators or anybody else. We thought that should be a parent choice, and so we just let them know that it was available through Carrie contacted parents through the email and e-notes and stuff that they had signed up for.
I don't know what
I don't know any numbers on that as far as how many of them chose to do that.
I don't know what news channel I was watching tonight before I came to the board meeting, but there is an increase, according to the health departments across the state, in the number of people that are starting to go get the vaccine. I mean, they're still seeing a steady number on that. So I'm hoping that we see that as well, because that really helps with my plan for next year for things to be voluntary, is to get more immunizations to go. And then also there was a report that Johnson & Johnson is the most popular. When those get available, everybody tries to sign up for that. And right now they have the Pfizer and they can't fill all the slots. That they have more vaccine available than people coming to take the shots. So anyway. All right, anything else that we need to let them know that you want to share?
Not that I'm aware of.
I'm happy to tell you that, well, I'm not happy that we have safety issues, but Sean has had an opportunity to do a few things lately and unrelated to COVID, and that is nice to kind of get back to, and he's outstanding at his job, and he takes it very seriously, and people respect that and respect him. So I'm very grateful for the work that he's done in dealing with all this.
Thank you, Sean. We are ready now for Board of Education member district responsibilities. Park and Rec Advisory Board, Tracy, do you have any information on that?
I went to the last meeting. It was a lot more about the Shade Tree Commission and things going on there. There was not a lot of rec things discussed with, but I did text Jay, and there should be a meeting tomorrow, but he believed it got canceled.
Very good. Ryan, Bright Beginnings and Head Start. Grant applications, yep. Very good. All right. Jeff, special education?
TEC has dominated a lot of our talks, but the best thing that happened in the last few weeks is we sold the building in Ensign. That is, that's a good step. Pardon?
For $1 or?
No. No, the guy called me and I told him what to offer.
Very good. Okay, Pamela and/or Dr. Dirksen, legislative?
Okay. Yes, I would share with you that there's still a lot of unknown, but right now, the KESB's been keeping all of us updated on concerns of bills, and late Friday, those bills did not pass. They're coming back for the wrap-up session, and there's a chance that some may be brought back, so we're not out of the woods yet. The one I was talking about specifically had to do with giving funding to private schools and cutting 2% out of the general fund and trying to backfill it with ESSER funds. And right now, that hasn't had enough support. There are several other serious bills that are being looked at, but the good news was, at this point, nothing that seemed detrimental to the school district had been passed at this point.
Good. Capital outlay, do we have any new?
We voted on several, we spent money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know if there was anything else at this point. Okay. And calendar committee, have you?
Carrie was meets with calendar committee, right? Calendar committee? Tomorrow she's going to.
Mhm. Very good. All right, we've got Jamie scheduled to review district bills prior to the May board meeting. I will make sure she knows that because she told me she will not be at the next board meeting. She's going to be out of town for the next one, so.
Also.
We have announcements. April 22nd, as Carrie mentioned, is the USD 443 retirement banquet out at Boot Hill Conference Center. Doors at 5:30, is that right? 5:30, yep. Then we have at noon on April 26th, the Board of Education meeting here in the boardroom. May 10th is then our next evening meeting at 6 o'clock. This is not on here, but we will be having graduation Saturday, May 22nd at 10:30 out at United Wireless Arena. We are moving forward with each graduate having 4 tickets for family to attend. The layout for the graduates will be like we had them in July. They'll be spaced out and with 4 per graduate. That still allows plenty of room for social distancing for the spectators. Anything else I need to add on that?
I don't. Is there anything else, Jackie, that needs to be mentioned about that?
And we like that, so we'll do it again.
We like that.
How many times did you hear it?
I thought it was just because we did so good, she wanted us again.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure about that.
No, I whined a lot.
All right, do we have any items for future board meetings or additional information that we need? Nope. Okay, as a reminder, we are doing our executive sessions upstairs, so when we're going to move straight upstairs after we get done here. We need an executive session for personnel of non-elected, matters of non-elected personnel, and to discuss negotiations. Who all do we need, Dr. Dirksen?
I would like Ramona, Hammer, and Clayton, and myself.
And how long do we need?
I believe we need 15 minutes for non-elected personnel, and then we'll come down and let everybody know that session is over, and we'll have, someone will come down, and we'll have 10 minutes for negotiations.
Okay.
I think that's right.
We need a motion for the first executive session.
I move.
Motion by Jeff, second by Tracy. All in favor? 6-0. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight.